Hatapu, Alafia, peace and blessings. I like to give peace and blessings to 5%. When I was coming up, 5% nation of gods and earth, I know I listened to lots of inspirational music from artists that were spitting sacred mathematics, supreme mathematics, divine mathematics. Artists like Brand Nubian, Lord Jamar, especially. Artists like Poor Righteous Teachers, the PRT. Artists like Rakim Allah, as well as artists who were highly influenced like Public Enemy, KRS-One. So big up to the teachers. Knowledge reigning supreme over nearly everyone. And I'm carrying with me the Ankh with the pyramid. The Ankh represents the sacred divine wisdom of our ancient Kemetic Egyptian Kemetic Kamo from Tawi, sacred knowledge. The vertical represents the male, the phallus. The circle represents the womb of the universe, the womb-niverse. And the horizontal represents the children. So this is an eternal symbol of eternity, eternal life. Not like the other symbol that has two phalluses and is a death symbol. So let's work with that Ankh. Know that the Ankh is the real cross. Also, we have the pyramid. Pyramid was actually a sacred and scientific shape, which when we were interred in the pyramids, it will enable the soul to ascend to Mother Nut and Aminta. So we're going to Aminta. Today we're going to recite tell the story of Garrett Morgan. When I say eel, and traditionally in Sierra Leone, the people listening say ow. Eel, ow. I'm acting as my audience as well. I'm going to start with a little verse from my last album, then I'll read you the bio. This is One Time Earth. One time Earth, divine at birth, until time passed into our present. Of our presence they fear because they became fair by fearing what was always out there. Their black hole was nada but the gnats in our hair. And I am here because my ancestors told me to come. I once was one until my parents attracted me black to come. And I am here because our ancestors told me to come. I once was one until my parents attracted me black to come, so that I would become of flesh and matter but not bounded to it. See, it does not matter the past came before the present, because we are living proof of Tahuti's divine truth to make lies not take fruit in the minds of the youth. Yes, I am here because our ancestors told me to come. Yes, I am here because our ancestors told me to come. Knowledge, wisdom, today. That's today's mathematics. Once again, the Ankh, symbol of eternal life, the pyramid, symbol of the spirit and the soul ascending to the heavens. Let your soul ascend to the heavens by living truth. And when you live truth, your soul will ascend to the heavens. And your heart will be lighter than a feather, ma'akiru. So let's read today's bio. And I was giving props to KRS-One, Knowledge Reigning Supreme over nearly everyone, because he's the one who really got me onto this wisdom of great black inventors. I remember in high school in Switzerland, I was going to high school, there was nothing. They didn't teach us about African history. There was only cultural genocide. They taught us, mistaught us and lied to us that the ancient Kemetic Egyptians were white, Arabs and whatnot, so they didn't give us any of the substantial history we needed. They only gave us stuff to enslave us, to give us a negative self-image, and also to give us an inferiority complex. So all of that stuff, we need to toss it in the garbage. There's a bunch of lies, like their so-called great Napoleon said. Their history is an agreed upon lie, written by the colonizers to keep the people who they colonized. So let's move on. Let's toss his story in the garbage. Let's tell a little bit of our story, his story, her story, our story, and let's move on. So let's read about Garrett Morgan. I'm going to read from the African Ancestral Manuscript. That's my book, published 2016. Every day we have a different African ancestor, and we're going to read to you about a different African ancestor every day. Okay? This is the story channel, the Griot, the Jellyba channel. The Jellyba telling immortal stories, immemorial stories to our children and adults alike, so their greatness can be emancipated and their greatness can be enhanced, and they can reach an apex of their destiny. So who was Garrett Morgan? Let's go into. Remember the verse said, KRS-One, Garrett Morgan, Sister Harriet Tubman, feed the slaves at night. Garrett Morgan made the traffic light. Harriet Tubman feed the slaves at night. That was the verse. So I'm paraphrasing what he said. So Garrett Morgan made the traffic light. That'll give you a little introduction. So Garrett Morgan was an African-American inventor. He is recognized for his wide range of interests and inventions. He was born on March 4th, 1877. Today we're March 12th, so not too far from when he was born. He is best known for his development of the gas mask and the automatic traffic signal, but he has also gained recognition for perfecting a hair straightening cream and belt fastening device for sewing machines. Now the hair straightening, we're not that much into it. It's about self-hatred, but back in those days, people used to do it a lot more than now, at least hopefully. Born in Paris, Kentucky, the seventh of 11 children, Morgan, like other indigents in the poverty belt, quit school at the age 14. He quit school at age 14 is just showing you that because you quit school at the age 14, that doesn't stop you from, manifesting your inner genius, your inner genii, and being very successful. Not telling you to do so, but I'm telling you if that happens to be your case, don't let it be a barrier to your achievement. And went to the city. He quit school at age 14 and went to the city to look for work. Morgan moved first to Cincinnati, where he worked at odd jobs for 4 years. Then he moved to Cleveland and found a job at a sewing machine repair company. In 1907, Morgan opened his own sewing machine sales and repair shop, and 2 years later, he opened his own tailoring shop and employed 32 people to make coats, suits, and dresses. Big up to all those self-employed people creating businesses in our community, hiring lots of the youth, the black youth who are disenfranchised and who are not given the opportunity. Big up to you. Let's keep it going. Let's get the youth engaged in something meaningful, something uplifting, and something that can help them to build families. Morgan encountered a problem in his sewing business. The heat and friction of the needles would often scorch wool cloth. He decided to solve the problem himself and worked on a chemical solution to coat the needles and so to reduce the friction. Morgan discovered that this solution would also straighten curly hair. After testing it on himself and a neighbor, so he did it on himself first. And they always say that the doctors, they need to take their own medicine to make sure it works. So that's what he did. His neighbor's name was Airedale Morgan. Morgan launched his G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Cream in 1909. The company he set up to manufacture and market this hair straightener did very well. And Morgan was alleged to be the first black man in Cleveland to own a car. To all you young people coming up today, make it seem trivial to own a car. You turn 16, 17, get a car. Back in those days, it was something special. So you guys need to be mindful of that. And it was something special to get a car. Morgan received a patent for his most important invention in 1914. This was the safety hood. Realize I'm wearing a hood today? In homage to all the great monasteries in Africa. The monasteries in Aksum and Lalibela, where the pious African monks, for years and years, it's not only in China that we have monks, the Buddhist monks, we have monks in Africa as well. Let's not forget that. Okay, after testing, so he made a patent for his invention in 1914, the safety hood, a breathing device that evolved into the modern gas mask. Very important invention. I mean, without the gas mask, a lot more people would have perished in wars, all types of toxic fumes being emitted, and he was one who created the first gas mask. It consisted of an airtight canvas hood worn over the head and connected to a breathing tube that hung to the ground. Morgan won a gold medal at the Second International Exposition of Sanitation and Safety in New York City in 1914 for his invention, which he marketed for firefighters, engineers, chemists, and others working with dangerous fumes. But it wasn't until Morgan proved the usefulness of this device himself that his gas mask really caught on. In 1916, Morgan and his brother, Frank, donned the life-saving mask and rescued more than 20 workers trapped in a tunnel 228 feet, that's 70 meters, beneath Lake Erie. The Cleveland Water Works for this rescue Morgan won a second gold medal. So this was really important. Without this invention, those 20 workers would have died. And countless number of other people would have died nowadays. Think about it, without the gas mask. Okay, so he rescued the people, and for this rescue he won the gold medal and began to receive many more orders for the mask. His mask proved effective in World War I and eventually became standard issue for soldiers. Morgan eventually set up his own company to manufacture the gas masks. The product sold well until the public learned that the manufacturer was black. Can you imagine that? A life-saving device, and people, because of racism, they don't want to buy it. That just shows you racism is it's definitely a mental health issue, man. These people seriously need to think about their mental health and how it affects them to operate. I mean, if that's something that's going to stop you from buying something that's going to save your life, you have serious mental health problem. And that's what racism really is. Even after he disguised himself as a big chief mason, a Canadian Indian, and hired the white demonstrators as marketing representatives, sales of the gas mask faltered just because they realized he was black and they wanted to be racist, not buy his product, even though they knew it would save their lives. I'm telling you, this is really some kind of contradiction in the human mind that leads to this mental health issue. To occupy his talent, he turned to the development of the automatic 3-stage electric traffic light. Before Morgan's invention, traffic signals indicated only go or stop, and they were frequently ignored. Can you imagine people driving anyhow? Crashes everywhere, people dying. It was chaos out in the streets, okay? Because there was nothing in between. There's just stop and go, and people just ignored it. Okay, so go, stop, and definitely they were frequently ignored. Morgan's light had arms that could be raised or lowered, and when they were in the halfway position, they indicated the drivers were to slow down. And imagine that. The red, amber, or yellow, and green. As we know, red means stop, amber means slow down, green means go, right? Without that amber, people didn't get the chance to slow down, so they were just crossing like crazy. Okay, this was the precursor of the red, yellow, and green lights that we use today. Morgan patented his traffic light in 1923 and then sold the rights to General Electric for $40,000. Can you imagine? Nothing, barely anything. Can you imagine that cheap price they got that for? I mean, in the dollars of the time, it might have been quite a bit, but really and truly, for what it's worth, that was less than nothing. So that's what he got. In the 1920s, he organized a newspaper, the Cleveland Call, a civil rights activist. He took part in the formation of the NAACP. So he was a polymath. He wasn't just an inventor. He was a politician. He ran for political office and won. Okay? And in 1931, he ran successfully for Cleveland City Council on a platform. This is my platform. It should be everybody's platform. Great platform. Fair housing, employment, and representation for all people. His declining years were marred with glaucoma. He had problems in his eyes and glaucoma, but he maintained an interest in his inventions until his transition to the ancestral realm in 1963. Can you imagine? He was born in 1977 to 1963. The young people watching, please calculate his age, but he was pretty old when he transitioned. He was one of the greatest inventors of our times, one of the greatest inventors of all times. Can you imagine what life would be without that amber and that traffic light and the gas mask? How many more people would have died and casualties humanity would have had, unnecessary casualties due to unnecessary occurrences? This is great. And inadventures. There would have been lots more people perishing due to inadventurous activities. So once again, we highlighted the achievements of Garrett Morgan for the African Ancestral Manuscript, a brave African-American man who invented so many very useful inventions, just to make you understand and your children that you shouldn't force them. You shouldn't perceive that there are some domains out there in the sciences that are white domains. Everything African minds has been to, they've exercised their genius. Don't condense and force the children. Try to look and investigate and see where their genius lies, because it lies somewhere. When you find where that genius lies, then enhance that genius. Give them tools for them to develop that genius, so when they bring it to the world, it can be monetized, and most of all, it can bring them satisfaction, peace. And at the end of the day, they have a life of contentment and of meaning. contributions to humanity. So once again, in the name of our great ancestor, Ashepsu, Garrett Morgan, I'd like to say peace and blessings. Once more, peace to the gods and the earth, respect to all the artists who are promoting the knowledge of the 5%, from Wu-Tang Clan to Poor Righteous Teachers to Brand Nubian to KRS-One, who told me about Garrett Morgan way back in the day. Garrett Morgan made the traffic light. Sister Harriet Tubman feed the slaves at night. He just went on and on. He went off. He said all types of people in this book he talked about. Okay, we're going to be talking about Harriet Tubman as well. But I'd like to say peace and blessings. We're running into a long discussion here. But once again, it's worth it. In the name of our ancestors, in the name of the Ankh, which is eternal life, remembering that in Africa there is no death. We transition from form to form, just like energy. And our ancestors are who we have come to be. So we cannot forget our ancestors, lest we forget our memory of who we are. Right? So Sankofa, let's go back. Let's feed our soul and our spirit of our experiences of our ancestors, the greatness, so that we can replicate and take that greatness even further and beyond. And we can stand on their shoulders, because they're borrowing us their shoulders for us to stand on. As long as we learn about them, pay respect to them, homage to them, tell our children about them, so we can uplift, enhance, and take the quest of our ancestors to a higher plane, a higher dimension. Okay, so I'd like to say peace and blessings to one and all. It's been my pleasure to share with you about Garrett Morgan. We'll be sharing more. Jellyba is going to continue to tell you good tales about great Africans until you fully realize your greatness on earth. I'd like to say peace and blessings to one and all. I'd like to say Hetapu, Keru Nefer. I'd like to say Odabo. I'd like to say au revoir, bonne nuit. Have a peaceful evening. Remember that you need to tap into your divinity. Tap into the divinity of your children. Tap into the genius within and magnify your greatness. Magnify your divinity and uplift your creativity to create a better world, because we need it. There's lots of darkness, and we need to use our genius to bring people into the light and truth so they can know themselves and know Nebuchadnezzar, creator, creatress. Ashe.